Welcome to Art Lounge.
So what's Art Lounge? It's space for artists, ones aspiring, or those who enjoy it, to come together and share ideas, thoughts, expression, and creation. Whether you're an illustrator, a writer, a musician, sculptor, comedian, dancer, architect, or someone who enjoys art in general, this space is for you. Hello everyone. Welcome back. Oh no, there's a little bit of a delay. Just give me 1 sec. I think I'm gonna have to just restart it often in order to make sure that there isn't this delay going on. So let's get back to drawing comics. Where did we finish last time? Right, we were doing these two guys. So we're working on this panel right here, which I think is pretty interesting how it was laid out. If you were to look at it, and this is something that we were talking about yesterday, just a brief overview of it. I think it's pretty cool that he added this helmet to bring more of like a dynamic look to the panel. You know, when you're looking at it, you're seeing these common shapes. But then he throws that in there to kind of break up the monotony of the image, especially considering like the background is kind of similar to the color of the background is a little bit similar to the clothes and stuff, and they're both wearing the same helmet, and that just kind of breaks it up and catches your eye when you're looking at the panel. So I enjoyed that in his work, and how to make panels more and more interesting. And that's something that's important. If you're telling a story, you don't want to use the same camera angles, you don't want to use the same features over and over. You want to try to break it up as much as possible to engage the viewer with your work a little bit more. So with that said, let's finish this panel. And I think I might actually ink these panels as well, because I think it's important, you know, when you're drawing comics, or when you're just studying this stuff. Like if you picked up a comic that you enjoy and you want to learn from it, the more you draw from it, the better. You know, you're instilling all these things that you've learned, like anatomy, the certain lines that they're making for shadows, understanding shadows, camera angles, just all these different things. You're learning them all at the same time. And when it comes to inking, you're just relearning all those things again. there's like multiple benefits to it. And also you're learning the medium itself. You know, when you're using, like, let's say you're using the brush pen, you're learning how to use that as well, and learning the limits of it. So it's just so beneficial. You're getting so many things done, and you're learning so many things all at the same time. So I think after I'm done with this panel, I'm gonna pick up the brush pen and do exactly that. Relearn all these things. So just to review, when you are copying from, even if you're just copying from real life, there are just these little tools that you can use to ensure accuracy, to train your eye to see detail, and just to kind of condense what you're looking at and simplify it a little bit more in order to focus on it and be able to draw it on a paper. And one of those techniques is, I've mentioned it a lot of times in the streams, is the space recognition between objects. So to draw it more accurately, for example, to draw the helmet, I'm going to look at the original, and then look at the distance between, like, the helmet, the top of the helmet, this little design that he had, and the frame itself, and look at the negative space. So two at the same time. You're looking at space difference, or the space gap between objects. That's one tool. And negative space, which is the second tool. So the negative space would be like this shape outside of the helmet and the frame. And we're going to draw exactly that. I think one of another example of that negative space is, I actually want to show that to you guys right now, is the silhouette of the face, and I'll bring it up right now for you guys to see it. It is right here. So as you can see here, right in the middle, if you're looking at it, right, like, what do you see? You might first see a cup, right? That white shape is the cup. But then if you look at it again, you will see that it's two faces looking at each other. And that's just like the one example of negative space. So the negative space would be, in this example, if you're looking at the faces, it would be the cup shape. But if you're looking at the cup shape, the negative space would be the faces. So just if you were to, let's say, draw this, if you wanted to draw the two faces, how would you simplify it? You would try to look and see it, look at the negative space, which is the cup, and see a shape that's more simplified. So it's a lot easier to just think of it as a cup than to think of it as like the forehead, the nose, the mouth, and try to draw that out. So you kind of trick your mind to seeing something in more of a simple form, and the result ends up being kind of complex. So this is exact same tool is this idea of negative shape, the negative spaces, and more simplified objects, and the distance between two objects. So for example, if you were to draw the cup shape, you could switch and think of like the noses when you're drawing that curve, and you could be like, are the noses close enough to each other? Like, are they touching? Are they closer than, let's say, where the neck is? It's a lot closer than that. So you could just switch back and forth in this vision, in this view, to help yourself achieve a more accurate result when you're drawing whichever it is, whether it's if you're drawing a cup or if you're drawing the two faces. So just some tools, methods to improve your drawing, to improve your accuracy when you're trying to copy something or so on. And it's a great tool. It really does save you a lot of time and hassle of wrestling with an image that you're working on. So it's kind of the same idea here. You're drawing that negative space that I was mentioning, if you were to look at the reference again. Let me see if I can bring it more into view. It's that space right there, that black shape. Kind of also looks like a vase. Again, you want to try to give it some sort of like easier shape to notice when you're drawing it. And rather than drawing like that helmet part, you could draw the vase shape, right? And that was just an example, but really I want to stick to the method I was talking about before, which is sketching out things before getting into the nitty-gritty details. Now we kind of gave ourselves limits to work within. Could jump into doing or defining more detail. If you guys have some tips and tricks when it comes to helping you draw and achieve accuracy when you're drawing, share it in chat. Talk about it. See how many other people could relate to that process. Now, the ones that I've mentioned before is using the mirror. And kind of curious how many of you have tried that out and whether that actually helped for you to notice certain mistakes, inaccuracies in your drawing. And what I mean is, when you're drawing, you could grab yourself a mirror and then place it next to the reference of what you're drawing and the drawing itself, and trying to notice like what the difference are. What ends up happening is just kind of refreshes your perspective on it. You know, sometimes you spend so many hours drawing, you kind of get used to what you're seeing and you stop seeing mistakes. And I think that's something that happens, like we were talking about in the previous stream. People kind of fall in love with their work and they're just like, oh, it looks so great. But because you've been staring at it for so long, you don't really notice the little mistakes you could improve on a drawing. It's not to say you shouldn't love your work. It's just saying that you should be able to just kind of be a good self-critic and see opportunities where you could grow, where you could improve, rather than it being this like black and white of like, oh, it's good, it's not good work. I didn't do a good job because it's not perfect or whatnot. No, it's just ways for you to look out for more things to improve on. That's all. So using space recognition between objects, I could see that the text bubble, or the text square rather, is actually closer towards the other end of the frame and closer towards the helmet. And also that, and this is really what made me see it, is how much closer the wall is to this guy over here. It's very close. So good thing that I sketched out these things and they're not way too ingrained in the paper for me to erase and improve it. Now sketching lightly came to the rescue again. And I'm using a kneaded eraser. I don't know if you guys remember this from the previous stream or if you had a chance to see it in the other stream. But it's just moldable eraser. It's pretty neat. You get to shape it to whatever you want, however big or small you want it to be. And then you could just stretch it out to clean it sometimes if you're using it too much. I'm using it on a blue pencil, so you don't get to see how dirty it really gets. And if you're using it on a regular pencil, it tends to get pretty dark, and then you smudge all that lead on something when you're erasing. So this is just a way of cleaning it. You just stretch it out. It's magically just removes all of that and turns the same color as it is now. And does a fairly good job. Like if you're just erasing sketched parts as opposed to like more firm lines, and does a pretty good job at removing them. Now again, here's another perfect opportunity. In fact, this is very similar to the two faces in the cup idea. It's this negative space right in between these like helmet horns or helmet decoration, I guess. If you're trying to copy it and to make sure that it's accurate, you could pay attention to that and compare that to the original. Does it look like it? Does it look like this rectangular vase? It just kind of makes it easier for you to notice it when you're switching between your drawing and the reference. Your eye quickly darts to it being a vase. This is a great opportunity to learn how to fill up the background and drawing these bricks and paying attention, not just like, okay, it's a square, but really paying attention to the lines. Because the more line variation you have, the more interesting it's going to make the panel look. And more realistic when it comes to the bricks, because the bricks are never just like perfectly straight. And because there's like limit to how much you could draw within the panel, it's good to just add that variation. The more little details you draw and notice, the more it's going to help when you're doing personal work. speaking of which, I'm really excited to continue tonight's stream at 8 o'clock. I'm going to be doing the project stream. I'm going to be working on a personal project of mine. I did end up doing some of it off stream. Just couldn't help myself. I got really into trying to capture the likeness of the subject, and time just flew by. I didn't even notice. But it was very rewarding. I ended up capturing more and more of the person's likeness. It's a very challenging angle, too. That's kind of why I wrestled with it. But worth every minute. If you guys could see this little detail right here on the side, you know, these lines right here I think are really important as well. Not just for the panel, not just for the character, but for your ability, like, to emulate those lines quickly next to each other. And how close they are with each other really does bring a different effect, and gives your hand more and more control. And the better you get at making these lines, the faster you get at making those lines, the more beneficial it is for you. You know, so lines like that are just great opportunities for you to practice your hand-eye coordination and control over your pencil. So I do like to try to draw them as accurately as possible. And to tell myself while I'm doing it, like, try to do it quicker, you know, get faster and faster. Now I'm going to extend the panel. Even though in the original it is a smaller panel than the other one, I just don't like how I'm cutting off parts of the face, and I'm kind of like squeezing them in there when I should just extend the panel. He kind of looked like he was fighting to be in the camera or in the panel, and rather than actually being in it. think I'm gonna have to switch over to a more firm eraser for this one, because I did press too hard when I was drawing the frames. But really, I'm just looking for an excuse to do these lines on the side of his helmet again. Also notice the line variation of his art. I really enjoy that. I think that adds to the appeal of the panels, of the subject as well. Like if you look at like the line right here, from the nostril down to where his mouth is, you could see that in places where it folds more or the fold is deeper, it gets darker, and then when it tapers off, it gets thinner and thinner, and just kind of emulates the reality of it, right? It's like the more mass there is in that area, the bigger the shadow is going to be underneath it, whereas the further down it gets and it starts to taper off, kind of disappear into the rest of the face, the shadow is thinner because there's less mass there. So it's again that element of like realism in his work, but at the same time, obviously you could look at these characters and you could see how like comic bookish they are. That's something that I really enjoy about, I guess, like Western comics, or in comparison to, like, let's say anime. And don't get me wrong, I know there might be some of you who are like, anime is great, and it is. There are some really amazing animations and series. I mean, especially like Akira. It's absolutely amazing. It's beautiful work. And really mature content, like very interesting, cool ideas there. But you know that's anime. Whereas I think with like, I guess more Western cartoons or animations and stuff, every single one of them is very different. And they have like their own unique style and characters and lines and everything. I really enjoy that individualistic expression coming from it. And there's definitely different types of anime styles. Like I'm aware of that. There's definitely all sorts of styles coming from it, and I could recognize it from just watching all the other cartoons. Like I love Cowboy Bebop is one of my favorites. Really amazing animation. Miyazaki's films, of course, but you always know looking at them that they're in the anime field. Whereas like Western cartoons, it's like it really is individualistic and it's more specific to the artist, or multiple artists if we're talking animation. the looks of this, though, it seems like I might have to only do just very little bit of inking. I'm gonna have to end the stream soon. Time really does fly. It feels like I just started. But I really do enjoy having these multiple streams. Like, I enjoy drawing all those, like, basic figures. I'm going over it myself as well as, like, sharing these tips with you guys. And then having to switch over and especially just, like, admiring John Buscema's work. It's great to learn from that as well. It's a fun experience. And then having to switch over to do more personal work, it's just find that to be really enjoyable. It just doesn't give enough time, I think, for me to, like, really get into each and every one of them. Like, I had to sit and draw for a couple of more hours after I was done with streaming yesterday, just to get more into, like, the personal project and really, like, dive deeper into capturing the likeness of the subject. It's just an hour is not enough. And this always, almost always, for as long as I can remember drawing, has been the case where it's like, you know, before I sit down, I'm like battling to actually get there, to get the motivation to sit down and do it. And then once I sit down and start doing it, I'm like, oh man, I should have done this like a long time ago. Should have started drawing like 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago. It's almost always the case. And I don't know how many of you guys can relate to that. Post it in chat. Talk about that, how you get yourself motivated to do it. And I think I mentioned in the other stream, like, the best solution to this problem is that Shia LaBeouf meme where he's just like, just do it. And it's true, just do it. Just sit down and do it. There's nothing, no words, no thought, no moment of inspiration is gonna bring it for you if you're just not feeling it. And the best solution is to just not even think about it and do it. Sit down and do whatever it is that you're setting yourself out to do, whether it's learning music, instrument, or drawing, or singing. Or creating like a dance choreography or whatever. Just whatever it is, just do it. Don't wait for the inspiration to hit. It will hit the moment you get involved. And just like I was saying earlier, you'll be like, oh man, I should have done this an hour ago. I should have done this 3 hours ago. And I saw that meme like so long ago, and it just kind of stuck with me because I realized like how true it is when it comes to like the whole motivation process. There are days where it just really kicks into gear and I feel that like sense of motivation, and I just sit and start doing it and act on it. But then other times it's just not there at all. And when I kicked myself to just like sit down and do it, just do it, it would be the same exact experience as when I would get that sense of motivation, and if not more so, where it's just it's rewarding knowing like, all right, I'm doing it consistently. The key to progress is doing it consistently over and over again. I really like this guy's expression. In fact, all of them just have a really fun one, but I like the expression of this guy with this weird, interesting helmet. Could be his cool stash. Not sure. But whatever it is, it's doing it for me. Hey, Kai Archer. It's a good thing I looked over. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Are you also learning to draw? Hey, that's great. As long as you practice, you will get better and better. That's what I can say. How'd you find the stream? Like, which social media? Yeah, it usually is. When you're first starting out, pretty much anything that you do, especially if you're teaching yourself, it's pretty difficult. But like I was saying before, it's a stepping stone. It's a learning process. Same thing with reading, right? When you first started out, it was a bit of a challenge. You had to learn all the different alphabets. You had to learn pronunciations. But then, the more you stuck with it, the easier it got, right? It wasn't until like much later that you were able to read. It wasn't much until much later that you were able to read more like complicated content. So the same thing with drawing. Just stick to it. You'll get good, without a doubt. At any time you have questions here, on ways that you want to improve, you could also check out my earlier stream. It starts at 3, where I teach drawing basics. And I just start out with like the most simple forms and just talk about different ways you could improve it. You could hop on there, just watch the streams from previous days as well. I'm just talking about all different ways that you could improve, different methods, different things you could keep in mind as you're drawing, as you're improving, to get better and better. Oh, cool. It's interesting that you found it through here. I'm posting on other social media. I didn't think that Twitch would be the one that gets more people. But the thing is that it's great that you're here, but I do have to end the stream now. I will be back. I'll be back at 8 p.m. and also at 9 p.m. At 8 p.m. I'm going to be doing a personal project, something that I've been meaning to get out. You'll see that at 8 o'clock, and then at 9 o'clock, I'm going to be doing Conan again. It's going to be these panels, but I'm going to be coloring them using watercolor. So if you got time, come hang out, see what the process is like, ask questions. Hopefully there'll be more people in chat. That's a good strategy. Yeah, that works. Well, it was nice seeing you here, Kai Archer. Hopefully I'll see you in the next stream. If you like this content, guys, hit the subscribe button. Also join the social media links that are posted on the site. And I'll see you guys at the evening stream.